And reserves. The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield myself 5 minutes.
The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in strong opposition to H.R. 5376, the Mislabeled Inflation Reduction Act. This is another reckless tax and spending spree that is not being accurately portrayed to the American people by Democrats. Washington Democrats are trying to convince Americans that adding more reckless government spending and raising taxes during a recession will combat inflation. Even nonpartisan organizations say this bill will have virtually no impact on inflation, and at least half of the expected tax revenue for next year is estimated to come from Americans making less than $400,000 a year. And Americans will see more IRS audits because this bill gives the IRS the ability to hire an army of new IRS agents. People should pay the taxes they owe, but instead of an army of IRS agents focusing on auditing middle to low-income Americans, we need to put our resources into hiring more Border Patrol officers to protect the border and stop the flow of illicit drugs such as illicit fentanyl. More troubling parts of this bill are the health care provisions. I strongly disagree with using Medicare money to pay for Obamacare subsidies for the wealthy. I introduced an amendment to keep Medicare savings in Medicare, which is already at risk of insolvency in the very near future, but unfortunately, House Democrats didn't even give this amendment a chance to be considered. While Democrats praise government price setting, or as they call it, negotiation, they fail to mention that such policies would lead to at least 15 fewer drugs coming to market, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. What are the 15 cures? Could it be the cure for Alzheimer's? Could it be the cure for diabetes? It could be. They also won't mention that the nonpartisan CBO said this bill will lead to higher prices on new drugs. Finally, Democrats are voting to give Secretary Becerra a $3 billion slush fund to set drug prices, despite HHS botching their response to both the COVID-19 pandemic, including politicizing guidance that kept schools closed and young children masked in Head Start programs. How can anyone support giving billions of dollars and more unrestricted authority to HHS that we know will lead to less cures for our loved ones? Let me be clear. We absolutely need to address the cost of prescription medication. There is, in the Energy and Commerce Committee, there is a bipartisan bill ready to go, H.R. 19, that could achieve this. But the Democrats have repeatedly refused to bring the bill to the floor for a vote. Our country is also facing an energy crisis created by President Biden and Washington's Democrats' war on American energy. Despite this, Democrat solution is to double down on the nearly $400 billion to be spent on far-left Green New Deal policies and impose billions of dollars of tax increases on energy that will be passed to consumers. Unbelievably, even as energy prices are at historically high levels, they have included a new tax on natural gas and revived a tax on petroleum products that will cost consumers tens of billions of dollars. I filed an amendment to exempt our defense bases from this natural gas tax, but again, Democrats refuse even to consider it. Democrats want to create a $27 billion slush fund at the EPA for a national climate bank to subsidize the solar energy that is heavily dominated by the Chinese Communist Party, and even spend $9 billion in rebates for wealthy Americans to green up their homes with new appliances and electric vehicles. To conclude, this legislation not only crushes hope for patients and their families living with devastating diseases that currently lack a treatment or a cure, but it also significantly undermines our economic and national security. I cannot vote for the more appropriately named Inflation Expansion Act, and I urge my colleagues to join me in opposing, and I reserve the balance of my time.